loved it so far, and the thing I like most is that Composite put real customers up in front to speak to us about the value of data virtualization, and they made a great case. The thing that struck me that I've never really heard as much when I've investigated data virtualization is just the time to value and how data virtualization really speeds up your project by cutting a lot of time out. In fact, a lot of people mentioned how that now with data virtualization you can get the data much faster than the business can even absorb it in a prototyping session. Whereas before it would take weeks for you to get the data together and then present something to the business users for validation. Usually it'd be wrong, then you have to go back for another 6 weeks. Now we can consume data extremely fast, put it in front of users within a week or two, and get their feedback and then reiterate again. So I think in many cases your customers were saying it's reduced cycle time by half. And even if you didn't have all the data modeled in the tool, it didn't take that much effort to pull a new data source in, model it, and then grab it and show it to the user. So I mean, this is the whole big movement these days, is to do things faster, better, and cheaper. And faster is probably the most important one of those in that triad of functionality the business wants. And data is the slowest part, getting access to data. So this was really enlightening for me to see that this kind of tool set can accelerate projects, make people agile. This is even before you apply agile methodology. So we didn't talk that much about that today, but this is a natural complement to an agile development methodology. Advances in hardware, memory, 64-bit operating systems, the size of the network pipes is making this technology, data virtualization, much more feasible, much more powerful. So you can apply it to many more applications than you could in the past. I mean, basically you can address more data, do more calculations than you could. So I think its footprint in an organization is growing. And in fact, as I was talking to someone outside, you probably should start by virtualizing. There's so many benefits from extracting out your data, just like we abstract out storage and we abstract many other things in our architecture. Right? Why not abstract the data? It just makes changing your architecture, changing your data sources much easier without impacting downstream applications. So start with virtualization and then persist if you need to for performance or what other reasons, or to gain aggregate and historical data. What's interesting is I've seen a couple of customers talk about a 3-tiered layer of abstraction within your tool. Mm-hmm. And that mirrors what people are doing with physical warehouses. So in a warehousing architecture, you have a staging area where you dump the data in its raw form. And then you have a data warehousing layer where you put it maybe in a third normal form, do some basic integration, and then you model it in a data mart for presentation and delivery. So you do that same sort of thing in a data virtualization environment, but it's all virtual, it's not physical, so it costs a lot less and can be done more rapidly. So that, the more layers of abstraction you have, the better off you're going to be. It just eases administration, improves change management so much. So we used to talk about 3-tier client server, right? Presentation, application, data layers. You really need a layer of abstraction between each of those. And then within each, it helps to have some layers of abstraction as well. I can see where reuse would be much greater in a virtual environment than, say, a traditional ETL data integration environment, for sure. We've always stovepiped our semantic layers with our BI tools. So if you change a BI tool, well, then you have to rebuild your semantic layer by putting in a universal data virtualization layer. You virtualize the BI tools as well as the data. So now I can change my BI tool and it doesn't affect my data or my semantic layer. So that's an added benefit that I haven't heard talked about much. You've got some leading edge thinkers here who are using your product to do some interesting advanced things.